while Field's Aunt May is caring but strong, giving Peter the family anchor he needs. The cast is rounded out by talents like Irfan Khan as Dr. Rajat Ratha, Campbell Scott as Richard Parker, and Embeth Davitz as Mary Parker, with smaller roles by Chris Zilka as Flash Thompson and C. Thomas Howell in a brief but memorable part. Every actor brings their A-game, making the characters feel real and relatable. Let's talk budget and production. The Amazing Spider-Man was a big investment for Sony, with a production budget of around $230 million. That's a hefty sum, but it shows on screen. Every dollar was spent to make this movie look spectacular. From the jaw-dropping web-swinging scenes to the detailed set designs, the production value is top-notch. Filming kicked off in December 2010 in Los Angeles, with some scenes shot in New York City to capture that authentic Big Apple vibe. Principal photography lasted 90 days, and the team didn't skimp on the stunts. Mark Webb wanted as much practical stunt work as possible to keep the action thrilling, with legendary stunt coordinator Vic Armstrong leading the charge. Cinematographer John Schwartzman, known for films like Seabiscuit, brought a gritty yet vibrant look to the movie, especially in the nighttime scenes that give it a moody, grounded feel. The script is another highlight. Written by James Vanderbilt, Alvin Sargent, and Steve Kloves, with a story by Vanderbilt, the screenplay strikes a balance between action and character development. Vanderbilt laid the foundation. Sargent, who worked on Raimi's trilogy, added polish, and Kloves, a Harry Potter veteran, brought his knack for dialogue and emotional beats. Fun fact, Kloves was particularly excited to write for Emma Stone, which is why Gwen Stacy's scenes pop with personality. Even Paul Feig, the director of Bridesmaids, chipped in with some writing for a high school scene, adding a touch of humor. The result is a story that feels fresh yet faithful to Spider-Man's roots, focusing on Peter's journey as a young man finding his place in the world. The music is another reason to get excited. James Horner, a legend behind scores like Titanic and Avatar, composed the soundtrack, and it's a masterpiece. Mark Webb wanted a score that was both grand and intimate, and Horner delivered with a mix of soaring orchestral pieces and delicate piano moments. The opening track, main title, Young Peter, sets the tone with a blend of electronic and orchestral sounds that capture Spider-Man's energy. Critics praised Horner's work for its intellectual approach, weaving in themes that reflect Peter's inner struggles and the movie's action-packed moments. The British rock band Coldplay also contributed music, adding a modern edge. If you're a soundtrack nerd like me, you'll want to grab the album, released by Sony Classical on July 3, 2012. Visually, this movie is a treat. The web-swinging scenes are some of the best in any Spider-Man film, thanks to a mix of practical stunts and cutting-edge CGI. Webb's team aimed for realism, making you feel like you're swinging through New York with Spider-Man. The suit itself is a standout, designed to look like something a teenager could make. It's a fresh take on the classic red and blue look. Unlike the Raimi films, where Peter's powers were more fantastical, this version leans into a scientific angle, with Peter using his smarts to create his web shooters and suit. The attention to detail, from the texture of the suit to the way Spider-Man moves, makes every action scene pop. The film's 3D and IMAX 3D releases were a big deal, enhancing the high-flying sequences and making them even more immersive. Let's talk box office. The Amazing Spider-Man was a massive hit, grossing $752.2 million worldwide, making it the 7th highest grossing film of 2012. It raked in $262 million domestically and $490 million internationally, with strong performances in markets like China, $48.8 million, the UK, $40.3 million, and Japan, $39.3 million. It didn't quite top heavyweights like The Avengers or The Dark Knight Rises, but it held its own, proving there was still plenty of love for Spider-Man. The film's success led to a sequel, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, in 2014, and even paved the way for Andrew Garfield's return in Spider-Man: No Way Home in 2021. Now let's get to the reviews. Critics gave the movie a solid 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, with an average rating of 6.6 out of 10, calling it a Well-chosen cast and sure-handed direction that thrills despite some familiar beats. Metacritic scored it a 66 out of 100 based on 42 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. Audiences loved it too, giving it an A- on CinemaScore. Fans on X have been vocal about their love for Garfield's Spider-Man, with posts calling it a darker, more emotional take, with slick visuals and heart. Some felt it didn't need to retread the origin story, but most agreed the cast and action make it a must-watch. The chemistry between Garfield and Stone, the intense action, and the emotional depth were big talking points. Behind the scenes, there's plenty of juicy trivia. Stan Lee, the co-creator of Spider-Man, has a hilarious cameo as a librarian who's oblivious to the chaos around him. Classic Stan. The film was originally titled Spider-Man 4 during development, with working titles like Fiona's Tale. A deleted scene with Dr. Rajit Ratha hinted at a bigger mystery about Peter's origins, but it was cut to keep the focus tight. There's also an Easter egg in Peter's room, a poster of Donald Glover, who campaigned to play Spider-Man and later inspired Miles Morales. The movie's tie-in video game, developed by Beenox, dropped on June 26, 2012, and while it's non-canon, it's a fun extension of the universe. Sony also released a comic, The Amazing Spider-Man, the movie number 1 to 2, as a prelude to the film. Why should you watch The Amazing Spider-Man? Because it's a fresh, heartfelt take on a beloved hero. Andrew Garfield brings a new energy to Peter Parker, making him relatable as a teen navigating love, loss, and responsibility. The romance with Gwen Stacy is one of the best in any superhero movie. Sweet, funny, and real. The action is thrilling, with web swinging that'll make your heart race.